Welcome to the Andy Staples Show. Ari, I've gone a week without football. Well, sort of a week without football. I did watch some XFL. I watched AJ McCarron complete the onside kick pass play. The thing I've been begging them to do to get rid of the onside kick and make them run a fourth down play. They did it.
You've been begging them to do that?
Well, not the XFL. Like college football, the pros.
Because I was going to ask you, what do you think of that rule?
I love it. Because the kickoff is physically a dangerous play, and it's become kind of a boring play because people just like kickers can knock it through the uprights on a kickoff now. Like if they want to do a touchback every time, they can usually, unless they slip.
So you're always like for the entertainment factor of like.
Yes.
I've got a confession. I got to tell you this.
Yeah.
I bet on the Battlehawks today.
Oh, feeling good about that?
I am, but I turned it off. Like
What?
I thought it was over. Like I didn't know. I missed the comeback. And then I saw in the ESPN app just the score, I was like, how the hell did that? Because they were down by 2 scores.
Yeah.
With less than a minute left. And then I saw the rule and I was like, huh. I didn't even know about that rule.
From the 25, which is about the same level of success as an onside kick. Now they've continuously they keep changing the rules of the onside kick to make it hard. It's to make it safer, but it has made it harder and harder to convert an onside kick as they've changed the rules. Because it used to be you could have everybody over on one side and kick to that side. You can't do that anymore. Everybody has to be spaced evenly. You could do a lot of kind of fake out type stuff. Now you can't really do that. And
in the XFL, you can do that at any point, right?
The team that is, I think you have to be trailing, but I don't see why you should have to be trailing. I think any team should be able to do that. Like, hey, we just scored a touchdown. We want to run this play. Because if you don't convert, it turns over where you are.
25. Yeah.
Or at the 32 if you didn't, if you gained 7 yards.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because you're all for the entertainment factor. Well, to me, it does seem that it would be easier to pick up 15 yards than it would be to get an onside kick.
I think it would be, but I think that's also why they're doing it from the 25 and not the 35. They're adding a little juice to it.
Okay.
Because I would say it probably needs to be like a fourth and 18 or 4th and 20. 4th and 15 is a nice round number.
I think 4th and 20 would probably be better.
4th and 20 from the 35. I'd go with that. I can live with that.
Something that's really, really hard to convert, because I do think that you could hit a 15-yard seam route. I mean, in college football, especially, if you think about that in the Pac-12.
Well, AJ McCarron hit a hole shot against a zone, basically, and it was a pretty throw. Like you had to thread it in there, and he made a very pretty throw.
Could you imagine Pac-12 after dark with this rule?
Oh, it would be amazing.
Like one of those Dorian Thompson-Robinson games where it's like every play's a 26-yard gain.
Yeah, and look, they've changed the rules on the onside kick so much that it feels like it's almost impossible unless you get just the perfect bounce. So let's make it something people understand, like actual football players playing football as opposed to a kicker getting the ball to bounce the right way.
So like Andy Staples, the commissioner of college football, the man in charge of everything.
Yeah.
You have the gavel in your hand. Bup.
Yep.
You changed it to this?
Yes.
In college football?
Yes. I wrote this column 2011, 2012, something like that.
I don't know if I've been living under a rock, dude. I had never heard of this. Like when this happened today, this was the first time I've ever heard of this idea.
Yeah, I suggested that, and I was not the first person to suggest that, but I was behind that years and years ago. I love the idea of football players playing football to get the ball back. So I also think you should punt instead of kick off. Like run the actual punt play, because then you can fake it. So that way you don't have to change the rule. Whether it's 4th and 15 or 4th and 20, whatever you decide is the conversion required to keep the ball. If every kickoff is a punt and starts out like a scrimmage,
but do you have to get into a punt formation?
Yes. And so, but you can fake it, and if you gain the required yards, you can keep the ball.
But what about in situations where everybody knows that you're going to have to go for it?
Or you can line up and run a play. Like, if
Okay,
you
so
want,
you don't
at
have
any
to
time.
line up in the punt formation. You can line up 5 wide
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the quarterback out there.
Exactly. As long as you line up in a legal football formation that isn't a kickoff, like that, any legal line of scrimmage formation for a regular down. That's what I'm saying. And because that's what the punt formation is. The punt formation is a legal formation.
Oh man. You know what, man? It's like I kind of like get into the idea of spicing things up and changing things around, but I'm not somebody who likes to tinker with shit. Like I
Oh,
just
I
like
know. It
I don't
drives
like
people
changing
nuts
the.
when I bring that up. The
I don't
only
want to
reason
change the game systematically.
but
That
the
would
only
change the
reason
entire strategy of the game.
not real. I mean, it would change it in a good way. But the only
I
reason I
guess.
say this is because they keep changing the rules on the onside kick. So it's not the onside kick we remember when we were kids.
Well, I think you need to tell people just so they're clear, like what the changes of the rule were to the onside kick and why it's harder.
Well,
Especially because of
now
targeting involved, you
to
can't hit
space,
somebody the way that you
right.
used to be able to hit them, which is the number one
You
thing.
can't send multiple people at somebody to knock them over and then go send somebody behind them to grab the ball. You can't load one side up. You have to spread them out. And Stephen Larkin mentions Greg Schiano has occasionally advocated since one of his players got paralyzed at Rutgers on a kickoff. That's exactly right. And that's what the first column I wrote. I quoted Greg Schiano a lot in that column. I talked to him for it and said, okay, explain to me what you would prefer. Because that was after Eric LeGrand got hurt. And I thought he made a lot of sense. I thought Schiano made a ton of sense. And it was him who suggested this 4th down play. And then you just figure out what yardage it should be. It's a really cool thing. It's much more fun, I think, than some, ex-soccer player trying to get a ball to bounce the right way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then see, that's why I think they should make kickoffs punts also to improve the element of surprise so that you can surprise
And the punt
people.
is a safer play than the kickoff?
The punt is a much safer play than the kickoff because people are not running 20. Like in a kickoff, you have the people who are trying to make the tackle and the people who are then blocking getting like a 20-yard head of steam before they collide.
Yeah.
In a punt, you have people. Now, occasionally you'll have that, but most of the time you have people, defender or punt return people who started at the line of scrimmage, shadowing tacklers down and then blocking them. So
and then the person who's receiving the punt also has full control over whether or not he wants to be hit.
Exactly. And now in college, I think in the NFL, it's a little easier to return a kickoff for a touchdown than a punt. But in college, it is much easier to return a punt for a touchdown than a kickoff. And so you actually get more returns and probably more exciting returns that way too.
Yeah.
So
it is funny.
See.
It's like, because like we did say goodbye to football last week.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious.
And here we are.
I've been watching college football. I've been watching college basketball all weekend because I need to watch something. And I turned the XFL game on, and my wife came into the room and she goes, "Can I use explicit language on this podcast?"
You go ahead.
No, I won't, because there's kids listening. But
okay.
She goes, "What the F is that?" Like angrily. I said, "What do you mean? What is that?" She said, "I thought football was over."
Yeah.
Because she's the wife who loves football.
Football never ends, baby.
For the first month of college football season. Then by December comes around, she's just at the end of her rope. So I kind of feel bad for her, now that we have this.
She's basically a college football writer.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it was I thought that game was completely and utterly unwatchable for the first 4.5 quarters to the point where I shut it off. So I'm happy there was a fun ending to it, but God, that was bad football. Like I couldn't. Did you watch the game?
I did not watch the whole game. I saw the end of it.
I think there was like 100 yards of total offense in the entire game.
Well, that's what I was wondering because I saw McCarron's stats at the end of the game, and then it showed what his stats were in the fourth quarter. I was like, did he not start the game? But he did start the game.
I think his team had 65 total yards in the middle of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they had not moved the ball.
So
clearly they had not moved the ball.
I don't know. Like if the XFL is going to make it, I understand the difference in rules, but they have to find a way to make, because like I feel like this is worse than low level college to watch.
Well, it's not as exciting as college football because you don't have that emotional investment. The players are good. They're not as good as NFL players. They're probably better on par than a lot of college teams. But
I don't think that the teams that were playing in the XFL, I don't know. This would be interesting to hear what you think. Do you think the best team in the XFL could beat Georgia?
No, No.
I don't either. Yeah.
No, like the worst team in the NFL would beat Georgia by 3 touchdowns, but
way
the
more
best
than 3,
team,
I think. But yeah.
Yeah, because you just find those 2 players that aren't going to be in the NFL and pick on them the whole time. So it would
Are
be
there
very
2
easy.
players on Georgia that aren't going to be in the NFL?
Well, in Georgia's case, you're going to find the 2 players who are only going to be in the NFL for a year.
I was going to say, what 2 players are those, Andy?
Exactly.
But it will be funny because it is like, okay, we're like 10 minutes into this thing, and I thought we had an interesting college football discussion.
We have a very interesting, but this actually turned into a college football discussion because this is something I've wanted to see for a while, and I'm glad we got to see.
It's just the thing that I want to know from you is, and I guess this, the expansion of the playoff, we know where we both stand on that.
Mm-hmm.
But and changing the rules for the way things work outside of the game is one thing. At a certain point, would you be like, okay, I've had enough change?
Sure.
Like when it comes
I've had enough change of the rules with the onside kick. I'm done with it now.
No, I know what I'm saying. Like, how much would you how many wholesale changes would you make to the actual rules of the game before it would annoy you?
Those are the only ones I want to. Well, those are the only ones I want to make, except for one in college that wouldn't be a change in the pros. If you catch the ball. If you catch the ball and dive and nobody touches you, you can get up and run with it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What about the fumbling out of the end zone?
No, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with it too.
There has to be a penalty for that. So, and it works well.
Yep.
So, Taz997 says XFL got rid of the fumble through the end zone for a turnover. I see. That's ridiculous. Don't get rid of that. See, I don't agree with every change. I see here. The kickoff thing, the kickoff has been so neutered, 1, by kickers who can just blast the ball through the back of the end zone, and 2, because they've tried to make the onside kick safer, but have changed the rules so that it makes the onside kick almost impossible. Like it's not the same thing you're trying to defend.
You can't just say put the ball at the 25 after every change of possession.
Right.
Because then you would remove the chances of retaining possession after you scored.
Exactly.
So I guess if you wanted to do that, but the thing that would be interesting is like if there was a team that just went for it every time. Because there are certain coaches that just don't care about.
The Kevin Kelly thing, the guy he used to be the Pulaski Academy coach in Arkansas.
The guy who never punts.
He never punted, and he did an onside kick after every touchdown. So that I don't think you can do that in college. He tried to do that at the FCS non-scholarship level. It did not work very well. So I don't think you'd have to.
Do you think that anybody at the Power 5 level could get away with that?
No, you'd have to adjust strategy a little bit. The players are significantly better.
What would the adjustments be to your strategy if you were to do that?
I
never punt in plus territory.
Never punt in plus territory. I might never punt if it's 4th and 4 or less. Like I might even go for it inside my own territory, depending on down and distance.
But how much of a difference is 4th and 4 and 4th and 6? It's like statistically, it's a major difference, right?
You got to draw the line somewhere, right? And the stats will tell you where the line should be.
I think the line is 4 yards. That's why I was asking. But
yeah, I might even that might be a sliding scale based on where the line of scrimmage is. Like if I'm on my own 30, it's going to need to be 4th and 3 or less.
I would never voluntarily give the ball back to the other team if I were out of their field goal range, and if the down and distance was less than 10.
Right. So. The rule should be now in your mind as a person deciding what to do on 4th down. Yards are cheap, points are precious.
Because field position
saying that to yourself, that's what matters.
You keep saying to yourself that field position means less and less as the years go on, doesn't it? It's like you have teams in college football putting up 550 yards of offense and losing all the time. They've made
so many rules to hamstring the defense that you just have to accept that yards are going to be gained.
I mean, there's still a lot of coaches in college football, if you watch, you do, who are punting on 4th and 4 from the 40, opposing 40.
Ferentz is just doing it because his defense is amazing and his offense isn't very good. But I
think the defense being amazing is the reason to go for it.
Well, Harbaugh has been a very kind of analytics-driven, go for it on 4th down guy. Like he's not conservative at all when it comes to that. I think if you look at him, he does it pretty much by the analytics book, not by the old school book. And it seems to work pretty well for him.
I would go for it, I think. most of the time.
Yeah.
But it was actually, the thing I would like to see is it to actually be done, because I could be wrong and it would be a disaster.
Oh,
but I'd like to see a team that was
punt?
Yeah, like I'm talking about like a middle tier, like 500 team.
Well, you saw Kiffin try that against Alabama a couple years ago, and they didn't get him, and it didn't work. So, but I didn't disagree with the strategy, because the talent gap was so wide that it was the only way they would have had a chance to win.
Yeah, also too, like if I were a team that was a 30-point underdog, I would never punt.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, like, because it's easy to say, and then you get in that situation, you're like, okay, I'll punt, because I'm going to look like a moron if I go for him.
Everybody's more afraid about looking like a moron instead of doing the thing that makes them most likely to win sometimes.
I know. But you and I don't have our jobs on the line when we're making those decisions, and I think that's something to remember.
If you're a 30-point dog, you're going to get your ass kicked no matter what. The cowardly field goal. That's another thing, but you don't want to get me started on that.
Oh yeah, we can do. Let's get into some of our questions, because we've asked ourselves some questions that we want answered during spring practice, and believe it or not, spring practice is closer than you think. We're on the tail end of February. There are gonna be some teams that start spring practice next week. There'll be a lot of teams that start first couple weeks of March. So we are in this thing. So let's start with question number 1, Ari. Who's going to be the new starting quarterback at Georgia? Who takes over for Stetson Bennett? Because that's an interesting conversation. It looks like they know who their guy is. And if that's the case, it also means you probably got one X5-star in the transfer portal.
Yeah, so it's not JT Daniels.
No, JT Daniels is now at Rice.
I know. I'm just kidding. The man has been on every roster.
And Keaton Slovis is now at BYU, because come on, why not?
Yeah. So, the question isn't so much who's going to be Georgia's starting quarterback. It's who's going to be the beneficiary of one of the 5-stars who are left out.
It is, and that's an interesting question, because I do think there's some schools sitting there saying, you know what? If there's a quarterback that's really good post-spring in the portal, we can bring him in and give him a chance to win the job in the fall. So, and that's I don't like Kirby Smart can't drag this thing out. It's not going to work that way. Coaches are going to have a hard time. We think Carson Beck's the guy, right? He's the backup last year. He seems to have made the most progress. And so you've got Brock Vandegrift and Gunnar Stockton. Stockton's younger. So I'm thinking he's the backup, maybe. But whoever's the backup stays, because they're one play away from being Georgia's starting quarterback. And then whoever the third guy is, and you should kind of know that by the end of spring, that person's in the portal.
Yeah, and you got two. Was Stockton end to 5-star?
I don't know
remember.
If he did. He and Vandegrift were both very
highly rated player. Yeah. So, and Carson Beck, I believe, was somewhere in the mid 200s.
He was a 4-star, but they do like him, and I everything I've heard is that he is set to be the guy.
Well, let me ask you this:
his to lose,
because when the Justin Fields stuff happened at Georgia, I think there was a large contingent of fans and even Georgia fans that doubted whether or not Kirby Smart knew how to manage the quarterback room or choose the right guy or anything.
Right.
Like that he was kind of a mess up when it came to the quarterback position. Do you remember those days?
I do. It was not that long ago.
Do you think that his decision-making on the quarterbacks, like he's absolved of that now? Like, do you fully trust Kirby Smart to make that decision again?
Well, he's not making it. Mike Bobo is going to have a lot of input in making it too.
He's making it. Yeah,
I do think Mike Bobo knows a lot about quarterback play. So
yeah,
and he's been. Well,
if that's the case, then how could
Carson
Beck even be the leader yet? Like Bobo hasn't even been on campus for more than 10 minutes.
Bobo was there the entire year last.
Last year. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, as an analyst, my bad.
Yeah. So he's seen all this. He knows what he's looking at. So he doesn't come in having to make up ground or figure out how each guy ticks. They already know. So 224. Two current Georgia QBs could start against each other in the Florida-Georgia game next year. Listen, if Stockton or Vandegrift's in the portal, I would imagine Florida would be interested.
Are you saying that you don't believe in Graham Mertz?
I'm saying Florida needs another quarterback on the roster too. Like they thought they were signing Jay. Remember, they had 2 quarterbacks committed at one point, and neither one of them is in the class.
Get whoever they want. They already know who the starter in Gainesville is next year.
DJ Lagway?
No.
He's not there yet. Graham Mertz.
My guy.
Well, listen.
I don't care what the odds are. I'm betting him to win the Heisman next year.
What a story that would be. And it would be great for him.
Yeah.
So I am all for redemption arcs. You know how much I like those. So
yeah, that's another
that
thing
happens.
Here.
That'd be great.
SC scout guy Gunnar Stockton was committed to South Carolina for a while.
Yeah.
And South Carolina is going to be losing Rattler. So
but if Gunnar Stockton is the backup, I stay at Georgia.
Yeah.
Because
it lacks foresight for you to bail on being the backup quarterback at Georgia to be the starter at South Carolina.
Here's the other part. If Carson Beck balls out as the starter, he's been in college 4 years at that point.
He's a redshirt junior, right?
Yeah, he's going pro if he has a great year.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, who knows in the era of NIL? But he's a prototypical sized NFL type quarterback. If he has a great year at Georgia, it would not be shocking if he went to the NFL. Yeah. So if you're the backup, then and Matthew, an SC scout guy now in a little fight in the chat. Stockton was only committed to South Carolina because of Bobo. Yes, remember Mike Bobo was the offensive coordinator Muschamps last season at South Carolina. So, but that is one that I think will be a good one to watch because I don't think you can drag this out until the fall. I think they've kind of shown their hand on the starter. So now we just got to figure out who the backup is.
Well, the best possible thing about the quarterback carousel here in the spring and the transfer portal in general is that we're going to get to see a lot of high-profile dudes that were big-time names in the recruiting game, not win jobs and then transfer, and then we get to live the excitement of recruitments again. Because there's going to be, I mean, just go right to the Ohio State one now, because that's the next question, right?
So the next question is who is QB1 at Ohio State, and this is one where so we can relitigate Dwayne Haskins and Joe Burrow all we want. The fact of the matter is they were both first-round draft picks. So if you picked a quarterback and he became a first-round draft pick, I'm not faulting you for that. And Justin Fields, first-round draft pick. CJ Stroud, first-round draft pick. They're on quite a run. And whoever gets this job gets to throw to the best receivers in the country.
Yeah. McCord has obviously been there for a year longer. But my understanding is that Ohio State really likes what they have in Devin Brown too. So,
yeah.
I don't know who's going to win the job, but I assume that who doesn't is gone, right?
Right. Now, do you think Ryan Day can stretch this into fall camp to make sure somebody stays?
Yeah. What is your take on that though? Like, don't you think that's kind of messed up?
Oh, I think it's very messed up. And I also think NIL can kind of force somebody's hand on this because if it looks like, because this is a lot of times we see it stretched into fall camp when we pretty much know who the starter is. I think if you have that situation going on at a place like Ohio State or a place like Georgia or a place like Alabama, there will be a lot of tampering where people say, listen, you're not going to get the job. Come to us now and we'll give you a chance to start this year.
Devin Brown during his recruitment, and I never know, what to believe when people say it, but Devin Brown was very understanding of the situation at Ohio State and made comments about staying there long-term to be developed. So I don't know if it's a guarantee that he would bounce if McCord won the job.
Is that not Carson Beck's situation at Georgia?
Yeah, but I also think that if McCord doesn't win the job, then he's going to leave because he would have been in the program now for, would that be his third year now?
Yeah. Well, so I think that's the interesting situation. If it looks as the spring goes on, like Brown's going to be the guy, how many people are reaching out behind the scenes to McCord saying, you might start for us this season.
Yeah.
So,
the people don't remember this, but during the beginning portions of CJ Stroud's tenure at Ohio State as the starting quarterback, like the first month of his starting career, like there was a lot of doubt about whether or not he had it,
Yeah.
And there was one game where he was injured and McCord started. And when McCord started, it kind of felt like if he played really, really well, that he could have taken the job from CJ.
Yeah.
And he played fine. But like McCord is a dude too. So, and Marvin Harrison was his receiver in high school.
I would say that a lot, most of the quarterbacks Ohio State recruits are dudes. Like,
yeah.
Who wouldn't want to go there and throw to those receivers?
No, I know. So, as we get into spring, it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out and if there seems to be a leader. But I've covered a few quarterback competitions at Ohio State, and they do a really good job of making sure that nothing seems apparent to anybody. So,
yeah, but that's different now. The world has changed considerably, and there will be pressure on. I bet there's pressure on both people with the chance at the starting job if there's no obvious starter by the end of spring.
Yeah.
And I mean from outside.
Financial pressure. Just, this is what it is. Yeah.
So it's absolutely fascinating. We got more good questions, though. We're going to take a little break. We'll be right back. Answer more questions we want to know by the end of spring practice. I remember the first time I tried on a Rhone polo. I slipped it on. I said, oh, my Lord, this is the most perfect fitting polo shirt I've ever worn. And then I bought 3 of them, because when you find a shirt that fits you absolutely perfectly, you get as many as you can. Now, here's the thing. The way Rhone makes his shirts, they're going to fit a lot of people perfectly because it's 4-way stretch. The commuter polo, the one I love, it hugs the right places and makes you look better in all the right places. It's pretty much the best way I can describe it. The commuter pants, same deal. Men's closets were due for a radical reinvention, and Rhone stepped up to the challenge. The commuter collection is the most comfortable, breathable, and flexible set of products known to man, and here's why. Rhone helps you get ready for any occasion with the commuter collection, which offers the world's most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, and polos. You never have to worry about what you wear when you have the Rhone commuter collection. It's true. I have the commuter dress pants. I have the commuter joggers, which are my favorite pants in the entire world. So you got favorite polo, favorite pants. It's pretty hard to beat. They're comfortable. You can move around like you're wearing athletic clothing, but you're not. You look like you're ready for work. It washes very well, holds up in the wash. I know everybody says it that their product does. This one actually does. I've got hundreds of washes in on my polo shirts. The commuter collection can get you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next. Head to rhone.com/Andy23 and use the promo code Andy23 to save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to rhone.com/Andy23 and use the code Andy23. It's time to find your corner office comfort. What's the first thing you do when you wake up? Is it check up on your credit score? Didn't think so. At Chime, that's exactly what they do. With your secure Chime Credit Builder Visa card, you can start to build credit with your own money. Chime reports your payments to credit bureaus to help you build up credit over time. Their members see an increase of 30 points on average. All of this with no annual fees, large security deposits, or credit checks to apply. So start your credit journey with Chime. Sign up takes only 2 minutes and doesn't affect your credit score. Get started at chime.com/Andy. That's chime.com/Andy. The Chime Credit Builder Visa card is issued by Stride Bank N.A. pursuant to a license from Visa USA. Chime checking account and $200 qualifying direct deposit required to apply for the secured Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card. Regular on-time payment history can have a positive impact on your credit score. Impact to score may vary, and some users' scores may not improve. Out-of-network ATM withdrawal fees may apply, except at MoneyPass ATMs and a 7-Eleven or any Allpoint or Visa Plus Alliance ATM. All right, Ari. Another quarterback question, but I feel like it's a good one. It's one you asked. And look, this is one I think the average casual fan is asking because they've heard so much about this person. Can Arch Manning have a real chance to win the starting job in 2023, or is it Quinn Ewers' job locked, stock, and barrel right now?
You know what the actual question I have is? What are the reps going to look like?
It's a good question because, with Quinn, he played he didn't play the whole season. He was hurt some of it. But you want to have, if he's your starter, you want him in there with those offensive linemen as much as you can. And you've got some jobs that you're going to settle, but you've had some young guys that were really good last year. I would want Quinn playing with them if he's the guy.
As much as possible, because he's still in the middle of his development.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to see what Arch can do. I mean, the beauty of spring practice is you do get a chance to let your twos do some stuff, and you can sprinkle Arch in there with the ones if you feel like he's ready, but they don't have to do anything with him. And I don't think that Arch or his camp are going to put any pressure on anybody to start right away. That never seemed to be part of the recruitment.
No. Well, the number one thing with people, whenever you tweet about tech, there's two programs that I feel like gets the most hatred in my mentions whenever I mention them in any way, and that's A&M and Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I tweeted anything about Ewers, everybody had this general assumption, and I don't know if it's just, mainline trash talk, but it was always like, well, it'll be fun to see Quinn in the transfer portal again, Yeah. And he already transferred once. So, that would be an interesting situation.
Still, you need a waiver. They're giving waivers, but it's still not a guarantee.
Right. But I don't know that. I thought he played fine in his first year. And I know the way that he was rated and the hype that he had in high school, like you would hope that he would have been a Heisman finalist or play at that level. Mm-hmm. But I saw enough out of Quinn last year to think, hey, this guy's got a shot to be really, really good. And he did play, like, even if you go back and remember, like, his first real start against a team, or a good team, Alabama, like, before he got injured, he looked like very poised and confident out there.
He did. Yeah.
So I don't know if I would be willing to give up on that yet. But on the other hand, too, it's just like, if Arch Manning he was the most hyped like, if you think Quinn Ewers was hyped, right, Arch Manning was the most hyped prospect I've ever seen. And I was a kid when Terrell Pryor was going through it, and I remember that was a really big one.
But Terrell Pryor wasn't the nephew of two famous Super Bowl winning quarterbacks.
How much better would Arch Manning have to be to even win that job from a roster standpoint? Like, even if he was 10% better than Quinn, I don't know if the juice would be worth the squeeze there.
Yeah, I mean, if he's better, the locker room knows it. They're not going to revolt or anything like that. But I just think, coming from where he came from, playing where he did at a private school in Louisiana, it may take some time. It may take some time to get ready and some time to adjust to the speed of the game. And it sure seemed like they set up his recruitment so that he would get that time, not so that he would be thrust into a quarterback controversy early on.
And Quinn Ewers is draft eligible after next year, right?
He is, yes. If he has a good season, I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah, he can leave. And look, given the quality of the quarterback class this year, somebody like Quinn Ewers, who checks a lot of the boxes in terms of size and arm strength and all that stuff. Look,
would he be the youngest player in the draft, though?
I don't think so. He'd be a third-year guy.
No, I know, but his first year was a high school senior.
Did he do the
Remember, he enrolled at Ohio State early.
I know, but did he do the Southern quarterback redshirt is the question.
Yeah, I don't know how actually
he was born in 2000. He was born in 2003. So he'd be about the same age as people who started school normally at if they were born in 2003 and came out after their third year.
Are they 20?
They're 21 usually. He would be 21.
He would? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So I mean,
he'd be 20. So he'd be on the younger
20,
end.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd be on the younger end.
But I don't think that's outside of the realm of possibility. So, like, I'm going to say this right now. I would be pretty surprised if Arch Manning was a starting quarterback for Texas next year.
I would be very surprised, because I don't think they were looking for a place where he'd be thrust into that role. Now, if Quinn Ewers gets hurt, that's a different story. But I don't think they wanted Arch to have all that pressure on him, because they're smart. They understand how all of this stuff works. Like, yeah, that's not a recipe for success.
There used to be in college football a general understanding that no matter how good you were as a quarterback, you were not going to play as a freshman.
Right.
And the development in the weight room and the eating plan and the understanding of the playbook, the the assimilating to college, the gaining leadership in the locker room, all the things that you read about and coaches will tell you about has gone to the wayside because really, really good quarterbacks want to play early now. So if you have a situation where money is not an issue with the family, you have a quarterback excellence in your DNA, and you understand that, hey, if it takes
you almost
year,
said he pisses excellence, didn't you?
No, but he probably does. I mean, Texas is the program at the P chart, so they could test his P. You are a bad man. No, so it'd be I think that it makes sense to give him time, and then when he's actually ready to go out there and play, he stands a lot more to gain from being ready and to look the part. But on the other hand, the flip of the coin too, Andy, you know this as well as anybody. Quarterbacks in 2023 are far more equipped to compete earlier on based on the private coaches that they have and the personal trainers and the dieting,
reps they take in
the elite 11s and the 7-on-7s. But the thing about Arch is he didn't participate in a lot of camps.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't really a part of all that. So that, to me, I wonder too, like, and I know he had great coaching. I mean, that's not a problem. Yeah. But, you know, he is a generally fascinating human being to follow. And I'm excited to see, you know, in the spring, you know, you can flip up reps a little bit more because you're not getting ready for a football game. This is a developmental time. But it is an interesting dynamic because you want Quinn to get as many reps with the ones as possible if he's going to be the quarterback because he's still developing. But on the other hand, you might want to see what you have in Arch. And this is the whole thing that, you know, but
I think there's enough reps to go around, especially if you have a situation where the person who's going to be your backup understands they're going to be your backup.
Yeah. Now, the one thing that could throw a wrench into the whole thing, Andy, is if Arch just goes out there and looks like John Elway.
And listen, if that happens, you start the best player. There's no messing around with that. Start the best player.
Yeah.
Like don't tempt fate.
How many coaches in college football though? How many coaches in college football do you think simply just start the best player?
It's hard. I go back to 2016. Nick Saban did start Blake Barnett against USC, but it was very clear they've been getting Jalen Hurts ready because they thought Jalen Hurts was the best player.
In my time covering Ohio State, I think I could name 10 different instances where the best player was not on the field because of seniority.
Yes, that's one particular head coach.
Yeah.
Well, two particular head coaches, both of whom valued seniority. I'm not talking about Ryan Day. I'm talking about Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer.
Yeah. My first year on the beat was his last year. But yes.
I do think now more than ever, coaches understand you just play the best guy.
You see what Joshua just put up there? We put that up there. Read it.
Ari, would you just sacrifice this Texas season to have the next two seasons be better? No, well, those would be your first two seasons in the SEC. So there you go.
Kicking the knackers, that question, because you know how I stand on that.
I do.
Also, to the upside of the current starter at Texas is a little bit higher than Sean Clifford's.
It's pretty high. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this will be a very interesting offseason at Texas just to see, because they got to win. Like, they're going to the SEC. They're going to have their talent, especially in the line of scrimmage in 2024 and the maturity of it and the where it'll be in terms of class balance. They're probably going to be as well set up as they can be to go in the SEC. My next question is actually about the other team that's joining the SEC in 2024. It's Oklahoma, and it's, can Brent Venables resurrect the defense? Because it felt like that defense got better last year, and I just went back and looked at their game log. It got better last year because they played some bad offenses in a row after playing some good offenses in a row. And so they give up 8.9 yards of play to TCU, 7.2 yards of play to Texas, 6.9 yards of play to Kansas. And then suddenly it drops to 4.5 yards of play to Iowa State. Well, Iowa State's offense was terrible last year. They had a decent game against Baylor. Baylor's offense was inconsistent last year. They had a good game against West Virginia. Their offense wasn't good last year. Oklahoma State, also not good. Then they go lose to Texas Tech and give up 51 points.
You know, Andy, There were some games last year for Oklahoma's defense that was so pathetically bad.
TCU. And I realize their
know that
quarterback got hurt, but that doesn't absolve you from being Swiss cheese on defense.
But I don't, if it's bad enough, I feel like who you're playing doesn't matter. Like you take whatever you can get. And I think that you could also add into this question, the USC, and if they can fix their defense, because it is interesting. And the reason why I brought USC into this is Lincoln. This is a Lincoln Riley problem at Oklahoma that has now followed him to California. And it's a problem that's now remaining in Norman. And a lot of these Big 12 defenses, how many years was this an issue with any of the Big 12 schools? Oklahoma's defense, even the years they were making the playoff, wasn't very good.
Right.
And my number one question has always been, and I had a theory about this, and I've been meaning to try to write about it, actually.
Okay.
And I want to bounce this off of you.
All right.
If you go look at the 247 Sport composite rankings for the state of Texas,
yep,
you find a lot of offense in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of offense. And I wonder if the Big 12 mentality has had an impact on the high school level in the state of Texas.
The Big 12 took its mentality from high school in the state of Texas.
But because of it, though, when a coach gets a really good player or athlete at the beginning of their careers at the high school level, even if you just dismiss where it originated from, the fact that it exists, the best athletes in Texas high school football play offense.
Correct.
So when you think why in Oklahoma, you got to say this, you can't ignore this. Oklahoma signed a hell of a recruiting class this past year.
Mm-hmm.
So you have hope from a talent standpoint that the tide is going to rise.
Yeah.
But it's hard for these teams in this conference to build a defense when their main recruiting territory is so offensively oriented.
But guess who has put together dominant defenses in recent years?
LSU?
Brent Venables.
LSU.
Well, yes, also LSU. But Brent Venables understands exactly what you're looking for. He knows where to go to get those plays. Like, where's Christian Wilkins from, Ari?
I don't know where he's from.
He's from Massachusetts, and he played at a prep school in Connecticut.
And he's one of the best defensive linemen I've ever seen with my two eyes.
And he went to Clemson because Brent Venables went and got him.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is because he was a genius defensive coordinator under the best, or maybe one of the best.
But also a maniacal recruiter.
And evaluator, I think, is important too.
Yes.
You would probably bet if you had a duck race between Brent Venables and Lincoln Riley, which head coach is going to figure out the defense first, you'd probably put Oklahoma in
I'm picking Venables, absolutely.
Based on track record.
I'll give you another one. Where's Isaiah Simmons from?
I don't know, but I know he's a 3-star quarterback, 3-star prospect.
He's from Kansas. So, again, that is Venables going and getting them where they are. Like, he's going to have to go outside Oklahoma's traditional recruiting territory to find the players to stock the defense. And also, he's got to make sure they understand it and they can coach it. Because, last year it felt like, his defense is very complicated. And if it's complicated, simplify it so you're not so bad.
Yeah, well, the thing that's interesting with Venables is he came from a place that is by far the biggest exception to the stars rule. Right.
Except they did, on defense for the most part, they stocked it with stars. Like they had good, highly rated recruits.
Yeah, but Isaiah Simmons and Christian Wilkins were probably two of the best players they ever had on D, and both of them were.
Christian Wilkins was a 5-star who everyone wanted.
Yeah.
And they had other guys that like Tony Seward was a 5-star. Like a lot of the guys they got were high 4- and 5-star guys.
Just trying to go think back to the 2015 class.
That's Wilkins' freshman year.
He was a 5-star. He's from Connecticut.
He played at a prep school in Connecticut. He's actually from Massachusetts.
Yeah, okay. So they've had a bunch of top 100 players on defense. So,
yes. And
so
guess who was responsible for recruiting most of them?
Yeah. Okay. So basically, what you're saying is Brent Venables is going to recruit like a maniac, get a bunch of top 100 players, and fix it with talent rather than being a genius that spots guys.
This is not a genius thing. This is a go get guys.
So he fits the mold. You could probably make the case that he fits the mold of what it takes to be a head coach from a recruiting standpoint at a powerhouse more than even Dabo does.
Right. Exactly. Now, the question is, can he handle the game day piece of it?
Yeah.
Can the teaching part work? Can the offense work? And we'll see. Everybody loves the quarterback they have coming in. That's the one when you talk to people.
He's the best quarterback in the 247.
Right.
No, I mean not in the 247. He's the best quarterback in the class.
Right. So he may push Dylan Gabriel for the starting job.
It would not shock me if Jackson Arnold was the starting quarterback at Oklahoma to start the year.
But this is interesting. I hadn't noticed this before, but you actually had me call up the 2015 Clemson recruiting class.
Yeah.
So 3 of the 4 Power Rangers were in that class, that great defensive line.
Yeah.
Christian Wilkins, number 24 overall. Cleveland Ferrell, number 115 overall. Austin Bryant, number 200 overall. The next year, they got Dexter Lawrence, who I believe was a top 10 recruit.
He was a 5-star player. Yeah.
Yeah.
That defensive line that basically won them the national championship, along with a pretty good quarterback, were all top 150 players for the most part, except one.
Yeah.
And I didn't remember that correctly because I thought there were a few in there that weren't.
No, they did occasionally out evaluate people, but on defense, they kind of are out recruited a lot. So that's the part I think is really interesting. And
it is crazy to think that, like, as the biggest exception to the Stars Matter rule, they also recruit the hell out of the defensive line and they recruit the hell out of the quarterback position, which might be the explanation of how they were able to do it.
Yeah. I am just ready to see it, but what's the formula here? Did you recruit the best quarterback?
Yes.
Oh, they did. Okay. Yep. So this is going to be, I just think.
And I think that was the most exciting thing for Oklahoma because not only did they raise the bar of the defensive talent they were bringing in, they also maintained the ability to sign the best quarterback without Lincoln Riley. So, like, if you are hoping that Oklahoma is going to be able to get back on track, you could make the case that Oklahoma is probably better situated from the talent coming in than it was before. Now, I'm not they got better without Lincoln Riley person. I know there's a lot of people in Oklahoma that would like that.
Right. Well, we need to see that for real happen on the field.
Because there's one thing that Lincoln Riley has that he doesn't, and that is a staunch resume.
A bunch of Big 12 championships, yes.
Yeah, but of also designing offense and creating development at the quarterback that's been unprecedented at any other university. Like, other players have been good and other offenses have been great, but like the Heisman thing is insane. Like,
it's crazy. And the first overall pick thing, or the first round pick, and
just the fact that
have another
to
one.
Watch it.
Caleb's gonna be another one. So it's all right. When we come back, we got to talk about the program we can't stop talking about this offseason. What questions do we have about Colorado coming up this spring? Because, good Lord, we have lots of questions about Deion and what's going to happen, because I'm fascinated there. So spent some time with some new friends this weekend. The usual crowd I like, but sometimes I like to branch out. So I met up with Logan Aldridge, with Robin Arzone, with Hannah Frankson. These people, have I met them in person? No. But I know them now because they're Peloton trainers, and they put me through some great workouts this weekend. And that's the thing. It's like meeting new friends when you find somebody like Hannah Frankson, who, that accent, it's a British accent, and I'm telling you, it makes you want to run faster. I don't know why. It just does. Logan Aldridge puts you at ease, gets you moving. That's probably the best part of Peloton. It's not the equipment itself. It's not the ease of use in the app. All that stuff's great too, but it's the people. Peloton is not just a bike. It's workouts across the spectrum with people who are going to push you, who understand that everybody needs to work out a little bit differently. And that's the best part. I did my usual hard intervals run with Marcel Dinkins, but then went to Logan Aldridge and ran around and listened to pop music. Sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes it has to be what you need when you need it. And that's what Peloton is. Peloton offers thousands of on-demand classes available 24/7. It means you can work out whenever and wherever it's convenient to you. You don't have to be a super athlete to like Peloton because there are classes for every level. Whether you exercise daily or you're new to working out, Peloton can help you achieve whatever your fitness goals are. So try Peloton risk-free with a 30-day home trial. It's for new members only. It's not available in remote locations. See additional terms at onepeloton.com/home-trial. That's onepeloton.com/home-trial. Make some new friends. All right, Ari, the guy we can't stop talking about. What is Coach Prime's first spring practice going to look like?
You were going to talk about Brian Ferentz.
Well, we can't stop talking about him either, but I think we know what his spring practice will look like. I think that's pretty much set in stone. I know Cade McNamara has told us, get ready, they're going to torch the world, but I kind of know what they look like. Sean Lewis running that offense at Colorado with Shedeur Sanders piloting it.
Mm-hmm.
Is Travis Hunter, how much is he playing both ways? What did they get out of the portal? Do some of those young guys that they recruited step in and play right away? This is a team that needed massive roster overhaul.
I don't want to make this about the quarterback again because it's always about the quarterback, but I am genuinely
it kind of
curious.
is, though, in a lot of cases.
How curious, like of all the storylines in the offseason that you could have, how curious you are just to see how good Shedeur Sanders is. Like, what if he's, I don't know, like let's say Caleb Williams is a 99 on the Madden scale. He's an 89 or a 93 or a 91. Like he's like really, really good.
Well, it'll be a great way to just supercharge their program right away. They need that. And now here's the thing. There's a lot of good quarterback play in the Pac-12.
A lot of good coaches now too.
Right. And think about what's just what's coming back. Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., Jaden Delore at Arizona, Caleb Williams. We've talked about him plenty. Then you're adding Cam Ward at Washington State. You're adding Cam Rising at Utah. Now we'll see if I don't know if he'll be able to start the season because he had a torn ACL in the bowl game, so he might.
I bet he will. Yeah.
But then you got DJ Uiagalelei coming in at Oregon State, where the pressure's not really on him. This is a team that beat Oregon by running the ball like 17 times in a row. He's not going to be relied upon to be the engine of their team. He's another nice part that they've added. So
also UCLA got Colin Schlee.
The best statistical performance against Georgia last year from Kent State. Now,
Garber, also, and Dante Moore's coming in.
Dante Moore's coming in. Ethan Garber's, though, that's the one I would think wins the job right now. We'll see. Maybe Dante Moore wins it, but there's a lot going on.
Very good. There's a very good quarterback competition at UCLA.
Yes. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Of the ones we talked about, that might be the most spicy because we don't know how that one's shaking out.
Monster.
Yeah. And one of those guys may wind up in the portal. That's another one. If you're a team that isn't quite sure if you have your starting quarterback on campus right now, you're watching that one pretty close. But the Colorado one, that offense seems pretty easy to pick. Now, you mentioned Colin Schlee, and I said best statistical performance of any quarterback against Georgia's defense last year. That was Sean Lewis's offense. Shedeur Sanders coming in. We saw him run the Jackson State offense very well. Obviously, this is a step up in competition, but he's going to have a step up in teammates as well. So this is going to be a lot of fun to see what is Deion going to show us? Because I feel like what Deion has done, and he did it at Jackson State, and he's doing it again at Colorado, is he's taking us behind the curtain, showing us a lot of things that we know happen at a lot of programs, but nobody will put a camera on them.
Yeah. We should be able to watch spring practice from our living rooms there, right?
I think we're going to see the juicy bits probably in the parts they want us to see.
Yeah.
So Damani with it says Colorado only needs to win 4 to 5 games first year. That's fine. Like they won one game last year. They were terrible. Like I don't think anybody's saying they need to win 8 or 9 games this year. If they can make a bowl game, that is a massive improvement.
So what is the win total for you? That's success there.
5. I'd say 5 is a success. And I mean, like, their start's pretty rough. Like, they got TCU. We'll see what Nebraska is. I don't know what they're going to be. But then they've got USC and Oregon early. Like, that's the thing that can kind of beat you down.
I think it's
if
better.
You're not careful.
It's better to upload or to front load,
right,
rather than to drop games while you're finding yourself to beatable teams and then get the easier part of the schedule at the end when you're starting to come together.
Yeah,
but yeah, like and Stephen Larkin here in the comments just said it. If they go 4-8 or 5-7 or whatever, like, what are those videos going to look like on YouTube?
yeah. Now I think they're fine though. Like, because I think people understand how hard the job is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think people are going to be all over the guy if he's 4-8, especially if they show improvement and like some of the 8 are close.
Because there's probably a large portion of people that don't think that he could even run a functional program because he doesn't have an experience.
Right.
And they don't give him credit for doing what he did at Jackson State because he had better players. But as we always point out on this podcast, that's the job.
Yeah, so exactly. You're supposed to get better players than everybody else.
But I also think too that like running a program at the FCS level is experience. Like, to say that he's inexperienced, I think is wrong.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what he does, because it will be probably telecast to us on Instagram and on YouTube, and a lot of the different steps we're going to see. And yeah, I think they've done a good job of making that the most interesting program in the Pac-12, even though there's a program in the Pac-12 that returns the Heisman Trophy winner that's in Hollywood. And there's a program in the Pac-12 that has won the last 2 Pac-12 titles. And there's a program in the Pac-12 that has a starting quarterback who, was the Auburn starter for 3 years and then came and had an incredible year. I mean, that league is going to be just wall to wall fun next year. I'm ready. I'm ready for that.
I do like too that the Pac-12, the banner of entertainment value, if you just take away USC, because obviously it's one of the main pillars, but the programs that are remaining in the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
Washington.
Yes. I mean, Michael Penix
Oregon
back. Oregon's
Utah,
still there. Yep.
UCLA, Colorado.
UCLA's leaving.
Oh, sorry, not UCLA. If you haven't noticed too, it's like I still can't believe it.
It is that one.
It's like
the
it's
UCLA
so
USC thing is the hardest thing. Like Oklahoma and Texas, like you kind of get. They're massive programs.
Oklahoma can drive.
Right. Exactly.
Multiple SEC schools.
Yeah. They border multiple SEC states. Like, you get that. But it is really hard to wrap your brain around UCLA and USC being in the Big Ten in 2 years.
Yeah, remember, it's been over a year.
Yeah.
Wait, did that happen this year or a year before?
That happened.
That was this year. This was in June. Yeah.
In June of last year. Yeah.
I was eating Subway when that news broke.
I was recording a podcast with Doug Haller about the Playboy All-America team.
Yeah.
And I go, Doug, I think we have to stop now. And we both look at our phones, and it's like tons of Slack messages and text messages because Wilner just put that tweet out.
Yeah.
So
I was covering the Elite 11, and there was discussion about me leaving the Elite 11 to go to Westwood.
Golly. Ari, we've had a great discussion about spring practice, but we do need to talk about this thing that appeared on Twitter this weekend. So this is from Jamie Allward, and it's a photo of the first Popeyes in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And Jamie reports that they have not been there yet because the line is always out the door. It's been open for a few weeks. I just got to say, I've rarely been as proud as an American as when I see that line of Frenchies waiting for Popeyes.
It was funny because when you texted me, I thought
those people who think they invented cooking, well, they haven't been to our Louisiana kitchen.
The funniest thing, Or I thought it was funny the way I responded. It's like, about time these people found some culture.
Exactly. One of the responses in the tweets was fantastic though, because somebody said, how do you increase Popeyes employees' normal indifference to customers? Make them French people serving American food to tourists.
Yeah. The funniest thing about Popeyes to me is that, like, it's really good. I think they've got top tier fries.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I don't know if I'm going to say that. Okay, I'm going to say this. I think may have the best chicken finger in fast food, even more so than Cane's.
Why on earth would you get chicken fingers at Popeyes?
No, I'm just saying that if they got good seasoning, if you want chicken fingers.
You're not one of those people who doesn't eat bone-in fried chicken, are you?
No, I like bone-in fried chicken.
Okay. We're going to have.
But I'm saying, if you were driving and you wanted chicken fingers, and they were next to each other, would you go to Cane's or Popeyes for chicken fingers if that's what you wanted?
Oh, I think I could do well either place.
And I also think, too, that bone-in chicken is a really hard thing to eat while driving. So if you're driving...
I disagree. Now,
you're a big fried chicken breast guy behind the wheel?
I would say put a towel over your shirt because you're going to get some grease.
Isn't that the definition of hard to eat while driving?
It's pretty difficult to eat while driving. But
yeah,
I'm not... That doesn't mean I haven't done it. That doesn't mean I haven't achieved it. So...
Yeah, and also, too, you're shaming me for getting chicken fingers at Popeyes when they also have great shrimp, and everybody was going there last year for their sandwich.
Well, they do fish sandwiches during Lent, so it is fish sandwich season at Popeyes as well. So,
Wonder, baby, let's go.
Yeah. So I'm proud of Popeyes. I want them.
But I never go
the
there.
World.
I don't really ever go there. Like when I'm in my fat stage, where I'm like smashing fast food. Like I never.
Maybe you should never occurred. For me, they're. Where I live, there's one in town. It's not conveniently located to me, but there's a kind of a path I drive when I'm going somewhere else where there's a very easily located Popeyes that I can just turn off and grab it. And that's usually when I get it.
The last time I went to Popeyes was when they released the fried chickens, or the chicken sandwich.
Yeah.
Because everybody was getting it. But I don't remember the last time I ate bone-in fried chicken from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been... Maybe
it's a rare. I don't eat a ton of bone-in fried chicken anymore, just because of the health reasons. I ate a lot more growing up. Like it was probably, I'm ashamed to say, probably 3-4 nights a week kind of meal.
Why are you ashamed of that?
It's really bad for you, and
you just got done bragging a few weeks ago about how much Long John Silver's you used to smash on a regular basis.
Well, yeah. I'm ashamed of that too. Like all of that messed me up for a long time. So I now have a healthier relationship with food. But that said, I have a theory that fried chicken, like elite fried chicken, there's the smallest gap between elite and normal in fried chicken compared to any other food.
Well, the thing about it is that like, when you think about getting fried chicken, you think about KFC and Popeyes. Well, I don't even know where I would go let's just say, like, I'm going to go have fried chicken tonight. I don't know where else I would even go. Like, what
Babe's Chicken Dinner? You guys have Babe's Chicken Dinner House in Dallas. That's just the experience alone. It's good
I guess too, but Cracker Barrel, but even then, that's not a
they don't. Their fried chicken's not that great. But like the best fried chicken I've ever had is the original Gus's in Mason, Tennessee, and it's great, but in terms of how much better it is than the average 8-piece box of Popeyes, or I'm in Publix territory, like Publix fried chicken is incredible.
But I think
so, like that 8-piece Publix fried chicken, the gap is small.
But if I were going to get fried chicken, I think I might go to the grocery store.
Oh yeah, that's I imagine in HEB has good fried chicken in Texas, but I know Publix has great fried chicken.
But there aren't a lot of restaurants out there that specialize in that dish. Like if you want to get a hamburger, there are 50 places within 2 miles of my apartment or my house that aren't fast food that serve a good burger.
Right. No, you're right. Fried chicken requires a commitment. Like you need to have multiple fryers and that's what you're serving. It is the main thing you are serving. And you don't have a lot else.
Why are there no restaurants that are just like Andy's Fried Chicken House? Like, why don't those exist?
I just named one.
I know you named
in
5
your area.
5 places.
Babe's Chicken Dinner House. But
I've lived in Dallas for 3 years, never heard of this place.
You're missing out. It's family style. you pay a flat fee and they just bring you as much fried chicken and mashed potatoes as you want.
Babe's Chicken House?
Babe's Chicken Dinner House. There, you can also get chicken fried steak.
See that? That's one of my food rants, by the way.
Okay.
There is a place called Burger House in Dallas, which is just a fast food restaurant.
Right.
And I've already went on this rant with you. When we ate I got a country fried steak sandwich when we were in Oxford.
Oh, at Ajax Diner.
Why
in Oxford,
country fried steak isn't as widely served as a fried chicken sandwich blows my mind.
I don't.
It should be a main
either.
staple at every of these fast food.
Yeah,
restaurants.
I don't understand it either. And where I grew up, it was much more common. And for you, where you grew up, you probably never found it anywhere. You might have found it
never.
Yeah. So, like the Hardee's steak biscuit was my favorite biscuit growing up, and that is a chicken fried steak biscuit.
You just remember the frenzy that everybody went on when the Popeyes chicken sandwich came out. When's the last time there was a frenzy for the?
I don't think people are aware.
Fried steak.
I tell you what, that Ajax country fried steak sandwich is one of the best things I've ever eaten.
I will tell you, and I don't, and this isn't Ari Wasserman hyperbole. That might have been the best sandwich I've ever eaten in my entire life.
It was so good. They put mashed potatoes on the sandwich.
It was the perfect. The bun was great.
Yep.
It was probably the best piece of
chicken fried steak
that I've ever had, or chicken fried steak I've ever had. And the mashed potatoes and the gravy. It was just the perfect sandwich.
Yeah, it was incredible. Like just talking about that sandwich makes me drool. So I am very glad that we have had this discussion. I'm very glad that people in France get to experience Popeyes, get to go order. Well, I imagine you're in France, so there's a lot of employees who at restaurants who aren't real happy you're there. But we're importing a special brand of that to you because eventually you get delicious fried chicken and hopefully biscuits too.
You know, my dad and I ate lunch at McDonald's in Italy once.
What do they call a quarter pounder in Italy?
It's a Royale with cheese.
Oh, just like in France. Okay.
I don't know. I just thought it was like, I just remember thinking like, we were in Cinque Terre. We ate lunch at McDonald's.
And you're like, let's get a filet.
You want to talk about the staple of American tourism right there.
That's amazing. Wow. I did not eat at we were in Italy for 2 weeks in 2008. I don't believe I ate at any American.
My life goal, because Britt and I were talking about going on a vacation to Europe when Liv gets older, and getting Domino's in Italy would be the greatest thing.
Domino's.
Could you imagine just like taking a picture underneath the Eiffel Tower with a box of cheese?
How do you say cheesy bread in French?
Well, the Eiffel Tower is not in Italy, but you get the point.
Mean the Leaning Tower of Pisa?
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah. Any one of you go to Capri or any one of these Italian landmarks and just sit there.
I've been to Capri. I do not believe they have a McDonald's or a KFC or any of that.
I've been to Capri too. So, but it would be cool.
A lot of Langostino,
little Domino's
big Langostino territory there.
Yeah.
So, anyway. This is great. So, French people, enjoy your Popeyes. It's a rare delicacy. You should appreciate it. This show is a rare delicacy. We're here. There was a note in the chat way back, probably about 15 minutes in. And the commenter was asking, they make you work on Sunday nights during the off season? There is no off season. College football never stops, people. Like, this is what we do.
And talking to each other doesn't feel like work. Let's be honest.
No, come on. We get into the Popeyes discussion. We get into the country fried steak discussion.
If we were on the phone right now, just shooting the shit, we would be talking about that.
This is exactly what we'd be talking about. So, no, there will be plenty to talk about. We've got shows all week. We do have a special guest coming up Wednesday's episode. We'll let you know as we get close. We're gonna make sure it's all locked in, but special guests coming, and we got to get you ready for the draft. That's coming up. The combine's coming up. There's all sorts of madness to talk about. So, Ari, it's been a pleasure. Now I really want Popeyes, but I have to go to sleep. We'll talk to you later.